In this video, I'm going to show you how to outline your novel using my favorite method, the Save the Cat method. So I have a lot of info to share with you guys, so I'm not even going to do an intro. We're just going to jump into it. You already know who I am.
LaMonique Mac!
You already know what I do, okay? Now I do want to remind you that this set of videos, starting with outlining all the way to pushing that publishing button, is a part of my series, the free KDP Publishing Course. Please make sure that you subscribe below because you don't want to miss a video within the course. Also, if you head down to the description, you will find a link in order to get on my email list. And for some of these videos, I'm going to be making booklets or PDF booklets. You won't want to miss those either. So make sure you're on that list so you get everything that comes with the course. Now, this video is part 2 for outlining a fiction book. In the first video, I showed you how to define and understand the elements of a fiction outline. In this video, we're actually going to tactically do the outline, and I'm going to be using my work in progress, which is on pre-order, Poor Little Mix Girl, and we're going to be looking at my Trello outline. Right now, you might be wondering, what is Save the Cat and what does that have to do with writing? Well, Save the Cat is actually a screenwriting book that was written by Blake Snyder. Now, Blake Snyder wrote Save the Cat because he wanted to help screenwriters write screenplays and movies and stories for television that were exciting, okay? That had all the elements of what you see on TV that keep people staying for that whole 2-hour video, that whole 2-hour movie and not being bored. Like all the elements, right? Or that show that you watch, right? That keeps you coming back week to week. In the same term, he wanted screenwriters to be able to write their screenplays in that same manner. Now, it has been said that the book is called Save the Cat because you want your hero to be introduced doing something nice so that they're a likable character. Now, I don't necessarily see that in every story, but that's the reason they named it Save the Cat. All right, so flash forward, Jessica Brody is an author, and she wrote a book years ago that didn't sell, and she found Save the Cat. And other writers kind of gravitated to the Save the Cat, which is for screenwriters. And she began to take her actual books, her fiction books, and write them with these story beats that were inside of Save the Cat. And then her books became page turners. She was able to get published with traditional publishing and large publishers and become a best-selling author. And she thought, you know what I'll do for the writing community? I will turn Save the Cat and adapt it into a book and adapted for writers. And that's just what she's done. So now we have the book Save the Cat Writes a Novel. So Save the Cat Writes a Novel really breaks it down for authors, book writers, okay, novelists, okay, for you, okay? So basically, instead of writing chapter by chapter, you're writing scene by scene, aka beat by beat. And links to both of the books, Save the Cat and Save the Cat Novel, will be in the description, and you will definitely want to grab those. Now, the Save the Cat method uses what's called a 3-story act. Much like when you go to plays, you've got Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and within each act, there are scenes or story beats for us writers, right? So what is a story beat? A story beat essentially is plot points. It's when things change up, okay? It's when you move to the beat. When you use this way of writing, and I'm going to show you, it's very interesting. When you use plot points to write fiction, your book becomes like an instant page turner. You don't have to worry about it getting dull or you missing elements that would make your writing interesting because you plot it out beat by beat. All right, so let's go ahead and plot beat by beat using my outline of Poor Little Mixed Girl on Trello. All right, so we're in the Poor Little Mixed Girl outline on Trello. As you can see, we have 3 acts. And actually, Act 2 is broken up into 2 acts, the middle of the story. So we have Act 1, Act 2A, Act 2B, and Act 3. So let's start with Act 1. In Act 1, we have the opening image. The opening image is a before snapshot of the hero and their world. So what I did is I created myself some checklists to begin the snapshot of the hero in their world. Now, this might not make a lot of sense to you, but this is from my story, Poor Little Mixed Girl. So it begins with a scene of me crying and upset when my mom comes to pick me up from school because I didn't make the cheerleading team. So I made it in a checklist here because of the way Trello is, but I also use a program called Scrivener for writers, and I transferred my outline over to that as well. The main thing about the opening image for me is I was crying and upset when my mom came to pick me up from school. And then my mother's reaction to that. And then I'm just going to show a few of the points. Another of the points was, and I crossed them off because I've already written these points. Another point in the opening image of me, it shows the rejection. I didn't make the cheerleading team. And the big moral for my story is acceptance from people, acceptance from having friends. And so at this point, I asked to go visit the neighbor next door, an older lady who's a neighbor next door. And that is when we're able to move into what's called the theme stated. And that's the next scene. Scene 2 or story beat 2 within Act 1 is theme stated. In the theme stated, a statement is made by a character, typically not the hero, that hints at what the character's arc will be, or that is what the hero must learn or discover before the end of the book. It's going to be what the real moral of the story is, because in a story we have a thing that the protagonist is searching for. And in my creative nonfiction book, Poor Little Mixed Girl, I'm searching for acceptance from people, because I constantly felt rejected, stemming from being adopted and stemming from being biracial. Every novel, there's a superficial thing that the protagonist thinks that they need. They think this is what they need to help them. But the moral of the story is going to be a life lesson. It's going to be the real thing that they actually need. And they don't see it, okay? This is very important. So then the theme has to be stated to the protagonist from a character. And it has to be from a character who, they may or may not like that character, the protagonist, the main character. They may or may not like the character who makes the statement to them, but they don't really take a lot of stock into what they say. So that real theme will be presented, the real moral of the story, and that's the theme stated. So in here, I go next door to the neighbor. These are all the little points I made to write about what's going to lead up to the theme being stated. So I end up at the next door neighbor's house. I'm telling her all about how I don't make the cheerleading team at school, how I just want friends, how I'm not accepted by people anywhere, even in the neighborhood, in the suburbs, within the hood that I live in. And so then she tells me, now this is a Christian book, so she tells me, you don't need acceptance from people. All you need is acceptance from Jesus. And that's he'll be your best friend. And so immediately, as a preteen, my character, LaMonique, she's going to reject that, because that doesn't seem like the answer that she's looking for the thing she's looking for. So the theme is stated from the next door character, and she rejects it in her mind. She's respectful to the character, but in her mind, she says, old people are always talking about Jesus, Okay, so that's the theme stated. Then we have the setup. Next, and these things go in order, okay? Everything goes in order. Next, you have the setup. The setup is an exploration of the hero's status quo life and all its flaws, where we learn what the hero's life looks like before its epic transformation. So we just want to see how the hero, the protagonist, the main character, these are all synonymous words, okay? But we just want to see, how are they living every day? What's it like? So this is where I go through and I do a lot of showing, not necessarily telling, showing what it's like in my hood where I live at, and how we got to get down low for gunshots, and how we try to get out of the hood for activities, and what it's like when I go to school in the suburbs versus coming back home. I show the life of me, the hero of this story, and that's the setup. The catalyst, that is an inciting incident. So even before we knew about story beats, everybody knew you need an inciting incident, okay? So this is beat number 4. It's under Act 1. You need an inciting incident or a life-changing event that happens to the hero, which will catapult them into a new world or a new way of thinking. An action beat should be big enough to prevent the hero from being able to return to their status quo world. Okay, so I didn't make notes down here, but for my catalyst, well, I don't want to give too much of my own story away because y'all might want to read it for yourself. But for my catalyst, a person entered my life that I temporarily received the acceptance that I thought I had always needed, and the trajectory of that sent me on a certain path. Okay, so what happens? Is it an event? Is it in a person? Like, what happens that changes you or changes your character? Beat 5 is the debate, and we're still in Act 1. It's the reaction sequence in which the hero debates what will they do next. It's usually presented in the form of a question, such as, should I go? The purpose of this beat is to show the hero's reluctance to change. And again, I want to note that these story beats and where to place them is from the book Save the Cat Writes, a novel by Jessica Brody. And it would be very beneficial for you to get that book. Now, this is going to help you this video is going to help you to set it up. But in order to get like deeper understanding, I do heavily recommend that book, which is going to be in the description below. So now that's the end of Act 1. Now, Act 2A and Act 2B, this is the middle of the book, okay? So in Act 2A, we're on story beat 6. It's called Break In 2. This is the moment the hero decides to accept the call to action, to leave their comfort zone, try something new, or venture into a new world or a new way of thinking. It's a decisive action beat that separates the status quo world of Act 1 from the new upside down world of Act 2. Okay, so everything's different now. Story beat 7, that's called the B story. That's the introduction of a new character or characters who will ultimately serve to help the hero learn the theme, the real theme. So right here, they meet somebody that's going to help them learn, go past the superficial thing that they think they want, and really learn the moral of the story. They're going to meet that person right here. And it could be a love interest, it could be a nemesis, a mentor, a family member, a friend, but it's their helper to learn the theme. Now, 8 is fun and games. I think fun and games is great for the middle of the book. You need some time in the middle of the book for your reader to just kind of watch them doing activities. So, and this is where we see the hero in their new world. They're either loving it or hating it. They're succeeding or floundering, also called the promise or premise. This section represents the hook of the story, why the reader picked up the novel in the first place. So they're doing a lot of activity and fun and games in their new world. And you might even make something out of this middle of the book be the blurb. Like when you think of TV, when they're in the middle of chasing the bad guys, or when they're in the middle of about to win, but that's not how the end's going to be. That's what they put like as the movie trailer. So the fun and games is like the movie trailer. And just because it says fun and games doesn't mean that it's all good. Because they're either loving it or hating it, succeeding or floundering. Story beat 9 is the very actual midpoint. And we're still in Act 2A. So literally it's the middle of the novel where the fun and games culminate into either a false victory or the hero has thus far been if the hero has thus far been succeeding, so they think that they've won, but it's a false victory or a false defeat. The hero has thus far been floundering, but now they're going to come back like Rocky, like you hear that music from Rocky. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, eventually they're gonna come back, but right now they're either floundering, and then later we know they're coming back like Rocky, or they think they won, and so they're gonna have some more plot twists and up and downs. You're gonna have to write more if there's a false victory, then in their new world, then you're gonna have to write some plot twists, ups and downs, so that they can't win right at the middle. Now, something should happen here to raise the stakes and push the hero towards real change. And I can tell you one part of my story was I realized at this point in my midpoint that I wanted more in life. I realized that the person that I had met and the new world I was in, I can tell you at this point in the midpoint, I realized I wanted more in life, and what I had going on was a false victory. So then we move on to Act 2B. We have Story Beat 10. And that's when the bad guys close in. Okay, if the midpoint was a false victory, this section will be a downward path where things get progressively worse. Last story beat, when they thought it was going good, they realized it was a false victory. Then now everything's going to start going progressively worse for them. If the midpoint was a false defeat, then this section will be an upward path where things seem to get progressively better for the hero. But regardless of the path, the hero's deep-rooted flaws or internal bad guys are closing in. I'll give you one of the scenes within this story beat that I wrote for my book is I was homeless at this point. So prior to this story beat, I had a false victory, and then I became homeless. We're in Act 2B, story beat 11, all is lost, okay? This is the lowest point of the novel, an action beat where something happens to the hero that combined with the internal bad guys pushes the hero to rock bottom. At this point, I can tell you everyone who I thought loved me at this point had turned their backs on me. I was at rock bottom. So here, the person is at rock bottom. So what is going on with your hero? Story beat 12, Dark Night of the Soul. That sounds really harsh, doesn't it? That's the name of this story beat. And it's a reaction beat where the hero takes time to process everything that's happened thus far. The hero should be worse off than at the start of the novel. This is the darkest hour just before the dawn. It's the moment right before the hero figures out the solution to their big problem. And they actually, at this point, are getting ready to learn the theme or life lesson, but it's their darkest hour before that. Finally, we're in Act 3, and the first story beat in Act 3 is story beat 13. It's called Break Into 3, and this is the aha moment. This is where the hero realizes what they must do. Like they have figured out the theme, right? The real theme. So this is like the aha moment. The hero realizes what they must do to not only fix all the problems created in Act 2, but more important, fix themselves. I can't give anything out of my story away on this one because it's nearing the end, and I can't tell you the ending. Now, story beat 14 is the finale or the climax. And this is what we've been waiting on, right? This is the culmination, all right? The hero proves they have truly learned the theme and enacts the plan they came up with in the Break Into 3. The bad guys are destroyed, even if they're internal bad guys, whatever bad guys, okay? The bad guys are destroyed, flaws are conquered, lovers are reunited, whatever's going on, okay? Not only is the hero's world safe, but it's a better place than it was before. Story beat 15 is called in Act 3 is the final image. And this is where you're going to mirror the opening image, okay? So in the opening image, we saw one thing. So I mirrored to the opening image. This is the after snapshot of who the hero is after going through this epic and satisfying transformation. So we saw who they were at the beginning, and now we're going to see an image of who they are at the end. And that is your 15-story beats using a 3-story act, plotting with Save the Cat Writes a Novel. All right, so now it is time for the question of the day. So which story beat did you find the most interesting, that you were the most surprised about, and how are you going to use that in your upcoming novel? Let me know in the comments below. All right, I just want to thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos on how to write, publish, and market your books with integrity. Until next time, I'm LaMonique Mac, helping you to get your book out of your heart and mind and into a sellable format. God bless.